Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and on today's review for you, is that velvet? Velvet Rush is an 11.1% barrel-aged Imperial Brown Ale from Founders Brewing Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I love brown ales. I love how simple they can be. I love how straightforward they can be. A humble brown ale is one of my favorite kinds of beers. It seems like Founders done just about every other beer in the barrel-aged format, so I really got a little bit excited when I saw that they were going to do a brown ale, their third release in their 2021 barrel-aged series. We're going to take a look at the label. We're going to get into a glass, but first I'd like to thank my executive producers Brian Kramer and David Jeffries for helping to bring this review to you today. If you'd like to become a producer, help out the channel, or maybe even just buy me a beer, take a look at my Patreon at patreon.drafttherapy.com, where you can get early access to these videos and a few other special perks available only to patrons. Let's take a look at the label. I know that I mentioned that, humble brown ale, right? But they've done a little bit of some something to this one to make it a little bit different than just a regular old brown ale. We'll start from the top. We have the Founders Brewing Company golden cap that they put on all the barrel-aged beers. They put it most recently on their last bottle shop release, which was Highball Drifter. Let's take a look at the front here. On the top, we have the Founders Brewing kind of crest across the neck of the bottle. You can see some iconography, some things we'll talk about on the lower portion of this label. It says Founders. On the left, it says Barrel Age Series. It says Velvet Rush. And this is an Imperial brown ale brewed with coffee, chocolate, vanilla extract, and milk sugar in bourbon barrels. If we look on the label here, we see some of those little things, right? We see this little curly guy over here looking like, almost looks like a handlebar mustache, but that should be the vanilla beans. We have the coffee beans. We have the pieces of chocolate. It says vanilla extract, but this shows vanilla beans. Okay, it's extract. It's not real beans. If we turn it around to the back, it says on the left-hand side at the top, 11.1% alcohol by volume. This is the 2021 release. Founders Velvet Rush. Borrowing elements from both high-end craft cocktails and moody jazz clubs, Velvet Rush takes the bourbon barrel-aged brown ale up an octave with free-flowing notes of coffee, chocolate, and vanilla extract. Milk sugars aid in weaving together this complex tapestry of flavors to create a unique sipping experience that really ties the room together. We can see this was bottled on July 29th, 2021. This is the beginning of September 4th. Specifically that I'm recording this, we can see the government warning has, the stuff on it. So yeah, this is, like I said, they've kind of bumped up this brown ale. I'm going to use a large snifter style glass. This kind of follows more, they mentioned even on the back here, Highball Drifter, like I said, their most recent bottle shop series release, I should say, was a cocktail-inspired beer, obviously inspired by like an old-fashioned / highball. So we'll see what this one's like. But first, we're going to crack it. We're going to put a nose on the bottle here. Getting a lot of chocolate, a lot of coffee notes. Definitely picking up a vanilla. Smells very sweet, just right out of the neck of this one. So let's go ahead and pour it. Coming out a really light brown. A lot lighter than I was expecting it to be. We're going to get a little bit more aggressive on the end of the pour there. It came out like the stream from the beer was very light. Looking at the head here, I've got about a finger's worth of head. It doesn't look quite as dark as I would expect it to be for something. Brown ales aren't really like stouts or porters. They're dark in color, but they're not like that same kind of consistency. They generally are a lot lighter, a lot smoother. I always think of a brown ale. I think of something like a Newcastle. I generally think of that for some reason. That's probably one of the first browns that I had. But if we hold this one up to the light, it's almost, I can see on the bottom of this bulb when I move my fingers, I can see a shadow pass in between here on the bottom of this glass with all these lights coming through. It looks going to look really dark to you, but to me, I definitely see a red kind of banding from where my light's coming through. Let's go ahead and put a better nose on the glass here. Yeah, so now I was picking up a lot of the chocolate, a lot of the vanilla, some of the coffee, not much barrel characteristic. Here I am definitely picking up a lot more of the coffee aroma, not flavor, but coffee aroma. I'm not picking so much. The chocolate is a lot more subtle. I do pick up on a little bit more of a bourbon barrel characteristic on this, but the coffee is what's really out front on this one for me. So I'm going to go ahead and try it out. Cheers. As we always do, we talk about the mouthfeel first. The mouthfeel on this is actually quite light, but it's not nearly as light as I thought it would be. It's not quite as crisp, as sharp, as biting on the mouthfeel as I thought it would be. I thought it'd be a lot lighter. It does have it kind of starts to slide a little bit more into that medium, kind of thicker territory. So I am picking up on a little bit of a thickness. Let's talk about the flavor here. So what I'm getting is, it's very kind of surface level, but it's also very deep, right? So it's like, it's kind of playing with me a little bit here. So what I get initially, the thing that I really pick up the most on is the coffee. Mostly the coffee on the up front. There's a bit of a kind of bourbon bite, like a bourbon barrel bite, a bit of an oak barrel bite to the actual finish of it. But as I kind of sit and I talk and I think about it, I definitely pick up also on a lot of that chocolate flavor and a little bit of that vanilla. The coffee, I feel like, is the major component of this. And then on the follow-up, on the finish, is where that bourbon kind of starts to poke through a little bit. And then after that, you know, sometimes beer, when you drink something, it gets to that point where it's like, you get the one thing at the beginning, and then you get the second thing at the end, and then it kind of just stops. But with this, I'm definitely getting that coffee up front, definitely getting that kind of bourbon bite on the end. And then after the finish, that's when a little bit of that chocolate comes up, a little bit of that vanilla kind of complements it. As I kind of swirl it around in my mouth a little bit more, it picks up, I still get the coffee, but the chocolate starts to come through a little bit more on that kind of swirl in my mouth. The bourbon definitely comes through a lot more, and the vanilla. So the kind of, I'm getting like that kind of coffee flavor, like just a straight up brown. I don't really pick up on any kind of brown characteristic on this. This doesn't really make me think, when I drink this, it doesn't make me think of a brown ale. What I'm thinking of is I take that drink and I'm getting that coffee, and it tastes like those coffee candies that you get, right? That have like the, you know, they're sweet. Obviously, they have that vanilla flavor, but they have that coffee. It's kind of a stronger coffee flavor. And there's a little bit of a chocolate mixed in there too. There's a candy that's out there that's like coffee and chocolate. It really reminds me of like a candy, something that you would unwrap and eat, but with that kind of bourbon bite to it that's kind of throughout the flavor. They weren't lying with the whole coffee, I'm sorry, with the whole cocktail inspired thing, because this is more like a sipper. I don't have any bourbon bite to it. There's no booziness that I'm picking up on this that's like any kind of overwhelming thing. But I would say that this isn't one that I would want to really chug, because like I said, you know, not like you should be in chugging Imperial, you know, bourbon barrel aged Imperial ales. But, you know, if this was something, I mean, it's so good that you would want to drink a lot of it quickly. But I'm really enjoying kind of sipping it and talking about it, because I feel as it's warming up, it's almost kind of evolving into different flavors. I'm picking up different things each time I take a sip. I do, you know, again, the coffee's the main thing. You're getting that chocolate, that vanilla really mixes in, and on the aftertaste is that bourbon kind of bite to it, and then there's that kind of bourbonness that kind of flows, you know, that kind of hits, and then a little bit more chocolate, a little bit more vanilla. This is one of those beers that I feel like I need to hold like underneath, you know, and swirl around a little bit and hold it up and keep looking at it and looking at the legs and the lacing and all that stuff. I have to say, I was not expecting it to look that light on the pour, and even on this, I can see through it, like seeing light bouncing off this counter, you know, through the glass. I'm really just kind of surprised that it's that kind of thin, but again, it's a brown ale. I have to keep telling myself that this is a brown ale. It's not a porter, it's not a stout. If you are, I wouldn't even recommend necessarily this to a brown ale, like, you know, connoisseur or somebody that really enjoys brown ales. I would recommend this more to somebody that likes flavors of, you know, something lighter than a stout, but someone that likes flavors of coffee, of chocolate, of vanilla, with that little bourbon bite to it. If you know, if you're one of those people, or if you know someone that's like that and they are like looking for a new beer to try, I think Velvet Rush from Founders is a really good example of that, because nothing's super overpowering. It just really all mixes well together. It's very smooth. It's a very kind of subtle, everything's very subtle. Nothing really jumps out and punches you in the face with how in your face it needs to be, how, you know, just like upfront and assertive it needs to be. It's just kind of subdued. It's, you know, it's laid back. You can drink this, and again, like I said, you sip it, it gets a little bit warmer, and I'll leave a comment down below as to how this really got when it warmed up, because this is about probably, I'd say this is probably about 50 to 55 degrees. As it warms, I'm curious to see, but I will leave a comment below. So if you're interested to see how this tastes as it warmed, I'll leave a note down in those comments so you can read that. All right, friends, that has been Velvet Rush from Founders Brewing Company. Have you had this yet? And what other kind of style would you like to see Founders give that whole barrel-aged treatment to? Let us know in the comments down below while you're down there. If you like beer, you might want to subscribe and click that bell. I'm here talking about beer twice a week. You might miss your newest favorite of, the upcoming beer releases if you're not subscribed and getting those notifications, and that would be a darn shame. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. Thanks for stopping by. Remember, drink craft beer, support your local breweries, and most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself to a little draft therapy. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Cheers.